I can see that some of you are already reading the book, so that's really nice. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, the star of the evening, the stars, I should say, are here. Namaskaram and a very warm welcome to everybody present here at ISB and to also all those who are tuned in live with us virtually. I'm Sharon Amer, your MC for this wonderful evening, and we have gathered here to witness the unveiling of Shuttler's Flick, which is an intimate account of Pullela Gopichand's life, which looks at the man behind the medals, his triumphs and tribulations. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not just a sports biography, but also a book about leadership, life lessons, spirituality, and most importantly, Pullela Gopichand's philosophy as a coach. And to throw more light on this, I'd like to invite on stage Miss Shobita from Simon & Schuster. I request Shobita to kindly please join us here. Yes, right. Yes, Shobita is here. Please do join us. And I'll just give you a brief about Simon & Schuster in the meantime.
Good evening, everyone. Simon & Schuster India began local publishing 5 years ago and announced its first list of authors on 14th November 2016. We started with Prayag Akbar's Laila, which is also now a Netflix series starring Huma Qureshi. We're also the publishers for Celestial Bodies by Joka Al-Harthi, which won the Man Booker International Prize in 2019. We have published a range of titles from some of India's foremost personalities, such as Jairam Ramesh, Kaushik Basu, Shobha De, Ashok Banker, Yasir Usman, and more. Our international list includes Carl Penn, Michael Holding, Hillary Clinton, Walter Isaacson, amongst others. We're honored and privileged to be the publishers for Shuttler's Flick by Pulela Gopichand and Priya Kumar. Padma Bhushan Shri Pulela Gopichand is, of course, the man we celebrate this evening. And nothing I say in this introduction will match what you get to read firsthand in the book being unveiled. The Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri, the Dronacharya Award, Rajiv Gandhi, Khel Ratna, the list of awards and accomplishments of Shri Pulela Gopichand are both exhaustive and exemplary. It is not just a testament to his achievements, but also of his commitment to excellence and empowerment of the next generation. A 5-time national championships winner, Pulela Gopichand hit the pinnacle of his playing career with a win at the All England Championships in Birmingham, England. Winning the most prestigious tournament in the sport catapulted him to the pantheon of Indian sporting legends, and yet it was only the beginning to the greater accomplishments yet to come. Following his win at All England Championships and subsequent retirement from playing, Pulela Gopichand embarked on a far more ambitious task of developing more champions. In the year 2004, appointed the chief national coach of Indian badminton team, and yet his vision was far from beyond coaching the top talent in the country. He wanted to find, nurture, and build an ecosystem of excellence for them. Through sheer grit and personal sacrifice was born the Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy in Gachibowli, Hyderabad. He's a man of few words, but of a great vision, a few peers, and immense heart for the sport of badminton. Our co-author, Priya Kumar, is an Indian writer, motivational speaker, and firewalk instructor with over 26 years of corporate training experience. She's worked with over 2,000 multinational corporates across 47 countries and is an author of 15 inspirational books. Priya's work has been featured extensively in the media, and she has been a guest in several business, entertainment, and reality shows. Her book, License to Live, was nominated for the Vodafone Crossword Book Awards in 2010. In 2019, her novel, I Will Go With You, was adapted into the web television series, The Final Call. I will now hand over the mic to Mohit Batra of Rajat Book Corner, an independent bookseller who has curated this evening for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shobita, and the stage is all yours, Mr. Mohit.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I'll take 10 seconds to breathe all of this in. You know, I'm an independent bookseller from Jaipur, and for the last 25 years, I was telling Madan sir this morning, I've done nothing but read books at my bookstore, which is all the size of this stage. Having witnessed so many independent relations with people who come to a bookstore, you know, people who are either very lazy or very passionate. Those are the two kinds of people who nowadays visit bookstores. Normal people do not. And this is the essence, and this is what inspired me to begin an initiative and get attention to books. A couple of years ago, being a third generation bookseller, I have the vantage point and the relations of an independent bookstore with the entire publishing industry of the country. But last couple of years, we started an initiative in Jaipur which we call "A book is the smartest handheld device." I repeat, a book is the smartest handheld device. And I have had a small argument with Gopi sir also again on this, badminton, racket or a book. Well, people have also called me. We've done a lot of events in Jaipur, collaborated with the government of Rajasthan, and we've hosted events at places like Jantar Mantar, Hawa Mahal. Getting an author in interaction with an audience or the reader directly has a romance, which I'm now very happy and so glad that I could come all the way to Hyderabad and host or curate this event. Now, a lot of people have asked me, what is this independent bookseller doing in Hyderabad? Again, I call independent bookstore, the relations we have with our customers or readers is beyond par. And one of the people I met at one of the events we did recently, I'll talk about him in a while, but before that, I have been, called crazy enough to do a lot of stuff. And one of the crazy things which I have been given responsibility today is to introduce the dean in his own institution. So I rest my case, booksellers are crazy people. Professor Madan Pilotla is Dean and Professor of Organizational Behavior at the Indian School of Business. Madan has an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from BITS Pinali, postgraduate degrees from XLRI Jamshedpur and the University of Illinois, and a PhD from the University of British Columbia. He has many publications in the best academic journals in the field and has also served as an associate editor in top journals such as the Academy of Management Annals and Organizational Behavior and Human Decision Process, and been on the editorial board of other top journals such as the Academy of Management Journal, the Academy of Management Review, and Administrative Science Quarterly. Madan has won numerous teaching awards at LBS, where he introduced the popular negotiations elective and directed successful executive education programs such as the Essentials of Leadership and Negotiation and Influence programs. Madan taught the founding batches of the PGP program at both the Hyderabad and Mohali campuses of the Indian School of Business and received the Best Teacher Award from the inaugural batch of students from the Mohali campus. Now, coming back to the question why I'm here, I would also like to introduce my dear friend Praveen, whom I met because of one of these events, and who has taken this entire initiative of promoting books personally. He has helped me curate this event, helped me connect with ISB, which is an absolute honor for me. I mean, anybody walking outside of this campus would know the importance of stepping inside. I could comfortably say we've spent years standing outside and having bhel puri and thinking, ek din andar jayenge. So Praveen has luckily given me the opportunity and the honor of coming here. I will hand it over to Praveen to take this forward. Ladies and gentlemen, Praveen Agarwal.
Friends, a very good evening. Now, a lot of you have asked me, what is Meraki? Now, Meraki is not a brand as such. Meraki is a feeling. It's a honor for me to be associated with Meraki. But before that, what is Meraki? Meraki is inspired by a Greek word, which means that when you do something out of your heart and soul, a part of you goes into that product or services. What comes out is Meraki. That's it. So Meraki is not associated with myself. Meraki is associated with everybody, each one of you in this room. Classic example of Meraki is Gopi sir or Gopi Bhaiya. Why do we call Gopi Bhaiya is all in the book. So kindly read that book, you'll know why we call him Gopi Bhaiya. This person has given his heart and soul to badminton. I mean, after when I was reading the book, I'm still getting the goosebumps. I mean, what he has given, none of us can in fact think about it. But once you read the book, once you understand what I'm talking about, so that is what Meraki is. And what we got is a champion. Not everybody becomes a champion. There's a difference between a sports person and a champion. But to be a true champion, it's very important that you walk the talk. I mean, and that's what he has been doing it. In fact, I had a pleasure to meet him in the afternoon. Nothing has changed for him. I mean, this event is such a big event for a person to write a book. I mean, but he was still, in the practice ring. He was practicing with the students, and he walks the talk. I mean, I'm in love with this person, not because he is definitely a celebrity, but also because he is a very humble, very shy, and as well very calm and composed person. I mean, in the book, thank you so much. My time is up, I know that. But friends, what I mean to say is like, what is important in this fast-paced life, in the technology-driven life is, heart. What comes from the heart goes to the heart. It's very important that whatever we do, I mean, a lot of students are there from ISB. It's very important that we live our life. And the tagline for Meraki is give life to living. And we truly want to endorse this statement. We want each one of you to live life king size. I mean, I know there are a lot of challenges in each one of our life, but nothing is impossible. I mean, somebody coming out of the injury and getting, winning the All England tournament is something, hats off. I mean, so kindly go to the book. Even if you got a complimentary book, just don't leave it aside. It's very important you read a book. My journey with books started only a year and a half back. I'm very unfortunate that I didn't get a chance or maybe kind of a kick to read books. But since 1.5 years, I've been reading books, and it has changed my life. And I have termed my life as 2.2 right now, which I'm living. So with this, I would like to say that I'm very privileged and honored to be standing in front of Honorable Sir out here and talking in front of a very distinguished guest and dignitaries here. So that's all about from my side, and guys, please live your life. The second example I wanted to give, but Sri KTR is still yet to come. That was also a very good example of Mr. KCR, his father. On 27th of April 2001, he started a movement of having a separate state for the people of Telangana. And Mr. KCR, he gave his heart and soul to that purpose, to this cause. And we know that after 13 years, on about 2nd of June 2014, a new state was born, Telangana was born. And that's he gave his heart and soul to that. So it's possible to get what you want, but you need to be truly be aligned to your heart, to your soul, to your passion. So that's about Meraki. And can we have a short video of 50 seconds, please? And that's all about from my side.
Thank you so much, Praveen, for sharing your valuable inputs and thoughts with us here. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall witness and participate in an informative discussion segment. And yes, I would request Professor Madan Pilutla, Dean, ISB, to kindly please lead this session.
Good evening, all. So it's a real pleasure for me to be sitting on stage with Gopi here. Everyone calls him Gopi Sir and Gopi Bhaiya. I don't think I should. It's significantly older than him, so it doesn't look very good to call you Bhaiya, so I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much for having this event here at the ISB. It's for us, we as an institution, we strive for excellence. As an institution, we think about building something of lasting value. That's the message we tell our students. That's the message we tell everyone who comes through the portals of the ISB. You've lived that. You've done that. And in the very, very first interaction that I had when I came to ISB and I met the press here, they asked me about organizations that I admired, and I didn't know that we were going to be sitting on the stage at the same time. And you were one of 3 organizations that I mentioned to the press. So I said the Gopi Chand Academy stands for something outstanding. It stands for something that India can be if it is aspirational enough. It's not what India is, but it is what India can be. If other institutions in India become like that. So I want to talk about the book because the main reason is because I got the book yesterday and I did read it. Okay, so I want to show off a little that I've actually read the book. So let's talk about a few things in the book. I have a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience and we'll ask them. Maybe they didn't have an opportunity to read the book, but we'll open it up. But Priya, as the author, as a co-author in this book, please feel free to step in, so at any point in time and add color to any of the questions that I'm going to be posing here. The focus is on you and on the book. So I'll try and keep the questions short, and I hope you can elaborate a lot more on the answers themselves. So if at some point in time I find that, the audience is getting a little restive with my questions, we'll open it up and we'll get the audience to ask the questions, because they're here also to ask you a few of the questions. So let's first make a plug for the book. Okay, please buy the book. Okay, it's and those of you who have the book, please read the book. There are a lot of interesting stories and tidbits, but along with that come certain lessons that you can walk away with. So these are stories by themselves, they're terrific, but when they come along with certain lessons, they become a little bit more than terrific. So I would strongly encourage you to get the book, to read the book, and then learn from what is a very, very unique life journey of a pretty extraordinary individual. With that, let me start off. I've prepared, actually, so I'm going to ask you a few questions from here. So let's start with, for me, a big statement, okay? So I saw it as a huge, huge statement in the book. And it made me, just pause and think a little bit. So you said in response to, and you've had injuries. During the course of your career, you've had injuries. Came back from a really, really big injury and won the All England title. And people have often told you that but for your injuries, maybe you would have won a lot more, right? And that's in response to that, you said, but the honest truth is that if it were not for my injuries, I would not have been the player or the coach that I am today. So you say this in the book. So can you elaborate a little on that? So how has that affected you? How has that shaped you? How has that molded you? Tell us a little about that.
Well, thank you, and thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having us here at ISB. For me, this entire journey has been like a dream. To just put things in perspective, when we started playing the sport, my father worked in a bank and we were moving cities. And when we came to Hyderabad in 83, 84, and I started playing in 85, cricket was the only sport which really was there post 83 World Cup. But for me, having started the sport and played it for a few years, Hyderabad at that point of time, we didn't even have a national champion from Hyderabad. So for us to think of becoming a world level athlete or player from here was not in the wildest of dreams. We would go to a South Zone and invariably we would be 4th or 5th in the South Zone. That's the kind of level we were in. So for us, each step when I climbed, the next step seemed possible. And that's how my whole journey was. When I won the district and went to the state, I just said, if you put a little more effort, the next step is possible. And that's how that entire journey was, district to state to national to the international level. But between the years of, say, 1980, when Prakash sir had won the All England, till 91, 92, when I started playing my first international, a lot of things had gone down in terms of the standard of the sport. And really, we as juniors or we as somebody coming out of Hyderabad never really thought that we can even achieve something at the world level. But time went by. 94 was when I had this anterior cruciate ligament tear of my left knee. And then also, I don't think any of us really, when we go international, we were thinking that we're going to be winning those tournaments. I think to get to an international event was the very objective, not to win it. And somewhere when I lost my play or lost the time due to sport, injury, that is when I realized how much I love the sport. And that became very instrumental in my quest for excellence, much beyond just winning. And it just didn't matter if I won, but I just wanted to be the best version I can be. And that is how this whole journey started. And a lot of things in terms of contemplation, understanding the sport, going through the mind, figuring out nutrition, figuring out recovery, happened. I would think a lot of it happened because of the injury. Because there was a pause, there was kind of time when there was lull, and that was the time when you had time to read, to recollect, to reflect, to understand things, to work on things which were not in the normal zone. Normally you would play, you would finish off and you would go back, but then suddenly you were not playing, and then you had to figure out something else. And that for me was the mind. That for me was the style of game which we needed to play. That for me was recovery from my training, and how would I recover better and faster. And all of these things have actually helped me become a better player, I would think. And more importantly, a better coach as well, because the thinking coach hat I had to wear because of the injury, because I was actually having a problem. So I needed to figure out how I needed. And most of the time I was managing an injury. There was something or the other hurting in my body. There was a lot of pain which I was going through. There was a lot of conflict which was happening in my mind. There was a lot of doubt which was there. So I actually had to break through those barriers. And for me, that I think is that statement for you. Because had it not been for that, I would have probably maybe just been complacent, or maybe just not thought enough or deep enough to figure a way out of it.
Very nice. You want to add anything, Priya? So Priya
That's-
told me that she has so much material that she couldn't put in the book. So we're going to get some of these insights that are not in the book also from Priya.
Yeah, there are a lot of deleted scenes from the book only because they couldn't fit. Otherwise, it would be like 800 pages. You know, that is one of my favorite statements as well. Because, you know, I would come back home and I would listen to Gopi sir. And then I would say, how does this relate to me? You know, when you talked about your injury and it became the defining moment in his life, I've not had injuries, you know, nothing that severe, but I've had setbacks. You know, I have had setbacks which were career threatening, or, you know, put an end to my desires or what I really wanted to do. And the comeback is the same strategy. You know, do what you can do. And his indulgence, what he was preoccupied with, how he worked on himself, is the journey, I think, of comeback from any setback ever. That there is this point in the book where his friends would call him, you know, when he had that injury and obviously can't leave the house. For a player, that's like worse than house arrest that we have been through. And his friends would call, you know, just to console him. And then his mother would say, oh, he's busy, he's busy. So for days and weeks, the man is busy. When you're, you know, on bed rest, it's because he was really busy, studying, learning, you know, doing wall smashes or whatever that he could. And that's the process of getting out of an injury or a setback and preparing yourself in that moment for a comeback. And that vision has to be very strong, like he said, love for sport. So do I have that? You know, those were questions I kept asking myself. And I realized there were so many times when I quit, you know, didn't work hard enough. So that setback, so many of them collectively could have been turning points. So things like this, you know, is what I could connect with and connect other people with using his journey.
Thank you. Just following up on this, right, and it's in a related theme. So there's a story you describe going to the Sydney Olympics, thinking you're going to win. You know, you were in the top form of your life, you were going to win, and you didn't, and it could have crushed you at that point. But you discovered something, you know. So you discovered something, and then you worked on that something. And similar story about your sinusitis, right? So similar story. Can you just tell us in your own words these two stories and what you took away from those? You know, so tell us the story and then what you took away from that.
I think for me, the initial years, when we were playing, And this is very different from the times today. Then we had one tournament at the national level. We would have a district, state and nationals. And if you actually failed at the nationals in that one tournament, it almost was very difficult for you to kind of prove yourself again, because then the next tournament would come back in the next year. So for me, the initial years were very challenging because for me, I was good at the state level, and then I went to nationals in Chennai. I was really tired playing. My head was aching and hurting. I didn't know what hit me. It just so happened that the humid weather didn't suit me. And when I was in Hyderabad, I wouldn't know that. And when I went to Chennai is when first time I didn't know it. The next nationals was in Calcutta, and I had the same problem. So I lost 2 years. And there was a time where I had to prove that I was good national level material to continue even playing the sport. So for me, the third year was very, very difficult, or it was very important, because in the 15, 16, 17 age groups, you have only those tournaments where, and so luckily the next nationals was in Imphal. So it was a little better, and post that the next nationals was in Jaipur, which was also a little better. So I think luckily for me those things changed. But later in life I really realized that it was a problem. And I've tried to figure it out, took the hard route out in some sense, because back then medication was an issue. We didn't know, because we were very scared that if you take a Colderin or a Cold Act or whatever, any of the cold medicines, they would have a drug or a dope in them. And so refrained from taking any medication at all. So used very raw methods, in the sense I would sleep on the floor, I would switch off the AC and switch off the fan, and ensure that I was in Goa playing the next nationals, which I won. And I have my friend here, Prabhakar, was there, and I would wear a monkey cap all the time. And it was like very funny, because it's hot, and then you're wearing a monkey cap. You've never ever ventured near the beach. My other friend Chamundi was here. He came to Brunei with me, stayed for a night, and he refused to share the room because I would switch off the AC in the night. So it was like that, in the sense. So those years were crazy, but one thing I did is whatever I heard, read, knew, I would try it next day morning, and that was very important. So sinusitis was that kind of a story. The second thing was, strangely, in Sydney, although we expect that the conditions would be perfect, we had concrete flooring in Sydney, and it was a temporary badminton hall which is put up in Sydney, and the floor was concrete, and they just put the thin mat on top, and we played. So when I finished the match, my just body was so sore, and I thought a massage would help. And luckily at the Olympics they have these physios who would provide massages. But then after 2 massages and 3 Brufens, all I got was fever the next day, and the body was very, very sore. But then when I came back, I realized that if I go into an ice bath and a tub of ice, I recover much better. And so although the All England of 2001 was also on concrete, I figured a way how to recover out of it. So for many of them, my All England they say, how did you feel after the All England? I think the first thing was I was happy that the physical agony and pain is over. I think that was the most important thing. It was more than the achievement, it was just that, oof, it's over now. Because the body was hurting, and luckily in 2003 onwards, the world body decided that from now on, as in 2003 onwards, all tournaments will be played on wooden surfaces and not concrete surfaces. But I had to suffer in those 2 years. But whatever I heard, whatever I knew, I would experiment. And I had one player called Manjusha, who's one doctor had told her that there is a certain mileage to your knees, and if you walk also, you are actually burning the mileage. So I would play and sleep, and I would not do anything else. So that's the kind of weird things I've done. But it's been at least one thing. I've at least found the answer or found that it's not useful. So both ways as a coach, it's useful.
So the reason I picked these, Gopi, for me, and the book is full of these are examples. You do mention some kind of the takeaways from this. But what I took away from this is that any time that there was some kind of a setback, you just went back to the drawing board, tried to figure out for yourself what exactly was wrong. So the story the Sydney story is amazing because you self-discovered that it was the concrete floor that was causing you the problem. You discovered that these ice baths would actually help you. And then you go to another concrete court in All England, and it's your figuring out that has helped you preserve your body, keep your body in shape so that you could go on to win the tournament. And you say this throughout with these examples that don't complain, don't blame other people, try to figure out, try to get a solution. And that's been part and parcel of the way that you've been through your journey, right? Throughout your journey, that's essentially what you talk about. Just wanting to switch to this, okay, to you have a unique perspective on what you call a champion, okay? Do you want to share what that perspective is? Who is a champion in your book?
Well, I think after years, and this question has been, if you had asked me maybe when I was playing, I would say the world number one is a champion, or I would say that this person who's the number one is the champion. But today, after seeing many kids play sport, you realize that there's a lot, although people see me as very successful, the reality is there's a lot more failure than success. There's a lot more failure which I have worked with than success. And you realize that it doesn't always add up. People who've really worked hard have not really made it also. That's also the truth. And you see people who've been broken because of that. So I think for me, our definition of success, our definition of winning needs to change so that we can respect the human effort and human potential. When somebody achieves his true potential and be the best version of he or she can be, I think that for me is a champion. And that is where we need to start acknowledging that, getting to that space where we are seeing that. At the moment, it is the winner is the champion kind of a thing. And I think that needs to get away, because I have seen, and it's very heartbreaking to see people who really put hard blood and sweat day in and day out, work really hard and not succeed. And then we consider them as failures. I think the acknowledgement that you've done your best, maybe this is what your potential is, and it's okay to fail, is a word which I would like to see and hear a lot more than we have done, or I have also done. I think that's the one evolution which I take in. So for me, I think respecting what you have, what your potential is, what you have started off with, and what you have achieved. I think if that is to your maximum, I think that's a success. I think that's very, very important.
Terrific. I mean, it's so profound. So it's a lovely message. The book also has, at the end, it has a few tips for parents who have aspirations for their children, and this is one of those messages that comes through there. As also for the people who themselves, they might look back and they might blame themselves, saying that I didn't do what I should have done. And the message really is, did you try hard enough and did you maximize your potential, right? So lovely, really, really, really nice message. I want to just shift tone a little, okay? And there are some funny stories in the book, okay? And so there are two in particular. There's one which I thought, I could also, because you said that this is about your school teacher, your Telugu school teacher, who praised your brother but not you, and said some things in Telugu. I can almost, because I'm a Telugu speaker, I can almost envision what she would have told you. Do you want to tell us the story, and also how she called you after you'd won the All England, and what she told you then?
I think for me, I've been very lucky that my parents have been super supportive in the sport. For me, I was also challenged because I had a brother who was brilliant. So he went to IIT, so it made my life very difficult. So the standards at home were very high. Luckily, for me, neither he nor my parents thought that I could achieve that, so it made my life a little easier. But at school, it was a little different. We had the teachers who would still compare me with him, which was a big challenge for me. But having moved from Orissa to start off with, and Tamil Nadu, to Ongole, to Hyderabad, we just moved too many subjects where Tamil and Hindi were subjects, and then there was Telugu as a subject, and I never could catch it. So my teacher would be like, look at your brother, he is a Telugu Pandit and you're a Telugu Shunta. She would say that. And she would say, Gopi, what are the chances that you will become one national champion? And she was she liked me in some sense, because she would say that there's only one person who can become a national champion, but there are many of us, them, who can become engineers. So the chances of you succeeding in life if you study is a lot more than if you play sport. And that was the message which I had. I messed up in one, I think in many exams, but one of those exams where my mom had to go and stand in front of the staff, in the staff teacher's room, because she read out, this is what your son has written in the news, in the exam sheet. So that was very funny, thinking of it now. But even if she was anywhere in the apartment, I would just go hiding in the house. That's how scared I was. But I think when I won the All England, she had tears in her eyes. And that was one of the best moments for me, because it was almost where somebody has thought that you would not be successful, and then somebody who's actually acknowledges that from a teacher is something which is very, very good feeling. I'm very happy, have very good memories of her, very proud of what she is, because I think there was a lot of love in that group of teachers which I always had.
Priya, can I just ask you a question?
Yes, but before that, I have to tell you that, while he's talking, all that I'm thinking is, did I write that? So, like the monkey cap, I don't think it's in the book.
No.
So, I have been very selfish over the past 3 years to, keep extending my conversations with him. Like when the book would come to an end, I'd say, let me have one last interview to see if anything has changed. And that last interview continued for 2 years. The man would evolve and change and grow at such a fast rate that it was like, this is brilliant, and I can see the same thing happening right now. So I am sure there will be a second edition to it with more added stuff.
So for me, I think when we went after the Rio Olympics, Seshidhar had called us for the Krishnapatnam port, and then he had said, Gopi, you should write a book. I said, okay, and then I would just kind of postpone it, and finally he was instrumental, because Priya had written his father's book, and he would say, Priya, you catch hold of him. And it was almost like, I'll have to say it, I've been reluctant in the sense, I'll have to talk about it. Because for me, it was always like what is now and in the future rather than what's been in the past, really. But I think she's been very, very patient, to be honest. She's been super patient and pushing to ensure that we have a lot of recordings and a lot of time I spent with her. But for me, people would come up and ask, as a parent, what should my role be? Or what has it been your experience as a player? And I think that comes out in the book, and I'm and I'm happy that it's come out. So some of the things are like very technical, badminton related, and she would be like, and it was also a conscious effort on her part and mine to ensure that it just doesn't become another sports biography in some sense, and it kind of relates to people who are not connected with the sport.
Yeah, and I was very privileged, sir, to be selected to write his book, because generally somebody who has a sports background will write about a sports person. The only sports background I have, I mean, I've won a lot of gold medals in my sports career, in slow cycling, lemon spoon, and so on. But that doesn't really come to, decoding his mindset. But I think that was also a strategy. Go where all the good players are not, So my journey has been like a privilege decoding everything that he has said. So yeah, it's both ways.
So for those of you who've not yet read the book, the book is unique in the sense it has both voices. I mean, both Gopi speaking in the first person as well as you taking his interviews and you writing about it. It has a number of other people who have written, including the people you have coached, the people you've played against, in some cases, your parents, your wife. So there are a whole bunch of voices that are represented in the book in the first person. And then at the end, there are also these lessons that you draw out from the book itself. So it's quite a unique book. It's not a standard kind of a biography at all. It's quite a unique book, and I think that was a very conscious decision. You just wanted it to be different. You wanted people to take some learnings away from it. Is the guess that I have. I have two more questions, and I'll open it up to the audience. Okay, you can choose to answer both, or you can choose to answer one. Okay, so the first of them is really, so when we think about, and I've been, recently I've been told about this. When the president came here to the city, he said Hyderabad is famous for, is famous for three things: biryani, Bahubali, and badminton. Right. So this is a statement that he'd made, and badminton is completely, so we're looking at it and we say badminton is him saying about badminton and the legacy of Hyderabad in badminton is you, right? So we think about it, it's you. So you've built this fine institution, right? So you've built this. You have like a whole array of coaches also that are working with you. What does it take to build similar kind of institutions? Let's just think about it, right? So what does it actually take in other sport, for example, right? So we have it in this one sport right now. We are a powerhouse badminton nation in the world. We can't say the same of very many other sports, right? So I'm in cricket, of course, but we can't say this about very many other sports. What does it take to build this? If you can take just a few, give us a few tips about that, speculate or tell us a few things about that, that would be helpful. And the final question I have for you, which I think is very important, is your view about why sport is necessary in life. That also has evolved for you over a period of time. So these two questions, and the reason for these two is I just want to open it up to the audience after that. Yeah.
I can start his first answer. It takes Gopi Chand to build that.
I knew that would be the answer, but I was hoping we can't clone him yet, right?
Yes. No, it's your question. I opened it.
I think people, programs, and infrastructure. I think infrastructure is the last. We many of the times end up building the infrastructure and not figuring out what to do with it. So I think that's something which is very, very important. I think and I don't know if it's possible to clone me for one specific reason, that God has been super kind to me. And the second thing is I have a family which has been super supportive. Whether it's my parents or my wife and kids, I think they've let away with me being away for very long, and they've been super supportive in that. So for that very reason, I don't know if it's possible to make another Gopi possible. That's one thing which I'll say humbly, but I think I do believe in it, so I'm saying it. The thing is that I don't know if all of the things which have made me a player and which have gone into my making of the person whom I am have really are the ones which have actually helped me in my coaching career. That has actually happened. So I don't know if such perfect planning can ever be done. I was very fortunate that I had coaches who were just brilliant, who just fell in place at the right time. Hamid Hussain sir, who made me love the sport. Arif sir, who made me disciplined in the sport. Prakash sir, who gave me the inspiration for the sport. Or whether it's Ganguly Prasad, who I could work together as a friend and plot things against the world. They just came in at the right moment in my life, which I thought was just brilliant, which was God's grace. I left the sport. I started coaching. I had these brilliant students who were there, whom I could mold. I also had a family. When I was down, they stood by me to support me and made me do ridiculous things, just taking the brunt of the coaching I was taking, and they were actually supporting me. I am very fortunate to have a bunch of friends who were super supportive. So all of these things have almost been God sent in a lot of ways. So I think it's a lot of God's grace in the way things have worked in my entire life, whether it's my injuries. So it's almost like it was designed for me to be successful in some sense. So I think it's a lot of divine will in that sense. So I come from that point of view. But to make it, because I think when you are asking it or ISB is asking it, they want processes and systems. So I think to put that in, I would really think that it's not something which can be broken down so simply. And that is why coaching as a science and coaching as an art are different things. You can't break it up, and the sum of them cannot be producing champions. So it's much beyond. I think it's the effort which you put in it, the heart which you put in, the knowledge which you have, and everything has to click at the right place and right time, and that is also divine will. So I think there's a combination of that. But to actually put things in perspective, I would go back and say I think we need to have good coaches, great coaches. Even with mediocre infrastructure, we can still produce results. So I think it's important that we start making great teachers and great coaches, and that's where this journey should start.
Thank you. And the second question, sport in life.
I came up with this years back when I was playing, and it's in the book. When I was playing and there were people who were elders or people who are seniors playing in the stadium, I would think, why the hell are they wasting time? They're taking time off from one of the kids whose career it is or who's preparing for an event. Why are they trying to become thin at the expense of my playing time? Because that's how I would see them, as a disturbance to my playing. Any senior who would play, who doesn't have a tournament to play, I would say, why the hell is he playing? But then today I see it very, very differently. I think for kids, I think sport is super important to learn life lessons. It's very, very important to play sport. Something as simple as going out and playing in an apartment has such great value, in the sense you just go out, you call 4 friends up, your communication skills, you decide to play a certain game. Somebody is playing cricket, somebody says no, we'll play marbles, and then you decide, and your ability to work as a team, you decide rules, you call, make 2 leaders, your leadership qualities, your ability to work and listen to somebody as a leader. I think the ability to handle pressure, all of these things, the ability to watch and learn, these are big qualities which are even available in unorganized sport. So those things are so very important in life. I don't know how many things I have learnt in my school, or many of us have learnt in school, in maths and physics and geography or chemistry is helpful. But I'm sure the life lessons we have learnt out of sport are 100% more effective. I think that is something which I come back to. So today when I look at sport, I look at it being super important. I look at failure or success. Being a sports person has huge benefits, and sport beyond medals is what I would look today, which is different from what and when I have started off.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to add that physics and math are important too. So let's open it up to the audience.
All right, so I guess you've set the tone there, and the floor is open to the audience here. Please feel free to, shoot any questions at the panelists here. All right, can we have the mic? All right, okay, there's somebody before you, Mohit. You'll have to wait.
Good evening, Gopi and Professor and Priya. Many of the questions, answers for the questions I'm going to ask was already answered. But still I would go and re-emphasize, what is that India need to do to institutionalize sports as one of the main disciplines alongside math, physics and economics? And with Professor, what is that we can do as an organization design for the country to get sport into the mainstream beyond cricket, of course now badminton, tennis and javelin?
Would you also like to introduce yourself to everybody?
My name is Aravindan. I work for an IT services company.
So, I mean, you're directing the question at me. It should be directed at Gopi, really, right? So we'll give this question to Gopi, and you take the question. What should we do to institutionalize sport in the curriculum in schools, right?
No, sports as institutional for the country.
I think one of the things we should do is that when we send kids to a physics class or a maths class, we don't ask them whether you'll become a Shakuntala Devi or an Einstein. But the moment you start playing sport, you start asking them this question. I think that's fundamentally what we have to do, is make people play sport irrespective, and that's the first thing we can do. And I'm not talking about sport, and don't think sport is football grounds, cricket grounds and badminton halls. I think just people going out and playing chor police or playing hide and seek or also sports which have a lot of value. So I think just don't let sport become too organized, too expensive to start off with, because we as a country will never be able to afford organized sport for all our kids. So unorganized sport is the way forward. And there might be a few of us who will actually be professionals or play sport for life in the professional side, but that's not for everybody, and that's not what we should look at, is what I would think.
Thank you.
And that was a very good question. Thank you so much, sir. Moving on, yes, Mohit, you had a question. Mohit is actually very happy to be here at ISB, so.
Sir, for the life of me, I cannot imagine such a gentle, humble and soft-spoken person to transform into a killer with a killer instinct on the badminton court. I mean, you've played sport at the highest competitive level possible. How do you manage that? I mean, I'm flummoxed seeing you on the badminton court, going for it, killing your opponent, destroying everybody, and seeing you here sitting, so humbly like a chocolatey person and so softly talking and about. I just want to know, how do you balance that? How do you carry in this emotion inside when you are fighting it out there, and the same fighting spirit when you're actually doing something simple?
Well, when I was younger, I was very violent on court, to the point of being called the McEnroe of badminton. So I've been very, very aggressive. But I think when you have falls early in life, then you settle down. And for me also, it's been that case. But yes, I think on court, I was aggressive. And I think that's the way it needs to be. I think when you're on court, you have to have the aggression, but it's also a show off for the opponent in terms of your body language and aggression. But deep inside, I think the calmer you are, the better decisions you make. And it's a conscious decision, but in general, I've been very aggressive in my playing career as much.
And that's where it matters, actually. Yes. So moving forward to anybody else who'd like to shoot a question, post? Yes? Oh, wow. All right. We have this young girl here. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, sir. I'm Harita from Pearl Infinity International School from Huzurnagar. And I would like to ask a question. And who is your inspiration to play the badminton game? And what has made Mr. Pulala Gopichand to be in this position?
For me, I think I was very fortunate that people around me, I found a lot of inspiration. So I had players whom I played with during my times who were great inspirations for me. Locally, we had players called Praveen and Manoj who were big inspirations, who were just seniors. My competitors, Dipankar and George Thomas, have been great motivators for me, inspiration. But of course, the thought of winning the All England or some Indian having a possibility to win the All England came up because of Prakash Padukone sir, and I think that's something which will always be very important from an inspiration and a role model perspective. And for me, I think sport has meant everything. So when I lost, when I was injured, when I was down, there was no way other than but to find way out in sport itself. So had I possibly been smart enough to have an alternate career, or was I good in some other field, probably the option was there. But today when I look back, I was lucky I didn't have an option, and that's why I had to find my option of happiness and success back in the sport. And that for me is why I am what I am.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, we have another little one.
Hello, sir. Good evening. My name is Saikil. I'm from Pearl Infinity International School from Huzurnagar. My first question is, how you got chance to play the badminton? When?
I went, my mom and dad took me to the cricket stadium in LB Stadium. They somehow, they didn't have place for me. The admissions were full in the summer camp. Then they took me to tennis. Somehow they decided against tennis because I think there were too many cars parked outside. That's what the excuse they had. And then the badminton court was empty. My connect with badminton was that my aunt used to play, so there was a little bit of a connect. So that's why I joined, but nothing really thought of or really thought. Probably I had an option, or anybody had an option at that time. We would have all played cricket, and that's how it was. But I didn't have admission, so I joined badminton.
And sir, my second question is, what is your favorite game after badminton?
So he already knows.
Back then it was cricket. Today I like a lot of sports. I like athletics a lot. But to actually watch and be part of it, I like hockey very much. I've watched all live hockey events, and but honestly, this was the first Olympics I've actually watched end to end. I think each sport is beautiful. I think when you understand sport, I think each sport has its beauties, and I think you will enjoy a lot of sport. And for me, I think, having said that, just to answer you quickly, I think hockey, live hockey, when you watch on ground, is a great sport to watch.
Okay, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
And thank you for asking the beautiful questions there. And you really you set the tone for us, and we all laughed and enjoyed. So thank you so much for bringing that quotient in this session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, we have somebody back there. Please introduce yourself.
Hello. Good evening and thank you for your time. My question is to Gopi sir. I'm an MBA student at ISB and the recruitment season is on for all of us. So my question is that there have been a lot of psychological studies that competition for recruitment and then within companies is breeding a culture of insecure overachievers in a lot of youngsters these days. But listening to you, I see a very self-assured and very self-aware individual. So how did you come to be this way? What was your evolution journey, if you could just shed some light on that?
I think when you're on the journey to achieving something, I think you have to not be complacent. I think you need to be aggressive, you need to be pushed forward, you need to work hard. I think once it's over is when you can take whatever is the result and figure the next plan of action. But I think on the journey, I don't think an athlete, if I was sitting as an athlete, you can be rest assured, it cannot be that way. So you have to you will probably have that element of anxiety, or you'll have that element of competition which is there, which eventually will back off when you realize that it doesn't really matter. But I think the initial years, I think it's important just to be on the job and to be pushing. And when you're outside of your work, I think that's when you have to count your blessings and be happy with whatever you have. I think that is very, very important.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I guess with that we can conclude. Okay, one last. All right. Okay, because our chief guest is also here. Any minute, Shri K.T. Rama Rao would be in the hall. So yes, let's wind up quickly after these two questions.
Hello, Gopi sir. My name is Vishal and I'm also an MBA student at ISB. I have been your fan since my childhood and I am very, very lucky that I am in the same room as you. My question to you is that after having achieved so much and contributed to the sport at ground level, how do you motivate yourself to get up of bed next day and do the same thing over and over again and produce the future stars of badminton to serve the country? And what is next for Gopi Chand? What is next for you? Like from coaching, where do you see yourself?
Well, I think you are in charge of a bunch of kids and their dreams and aspirations. So I think that is what really motivates you to push. Somewhere it is either the push from your side or there is the element of pride, which is very important. So whether it's your personal love for the sport, passion for the sport, or you working for your pride, whether it's your pride, your country's pride, I think these are motivating factors for me to get up the next day morning, even if you are a little down and out. I think just to feel that you're responsible for your country's performance and you're responsible for your players' performance and you're responsible for your own ability as a coach. I think when these are in question, I think you come out. Or the better or the best way is actually if you love your profession and you keep doing it forever like that. So I think between these two is where you keep oscillating. And the more you are in the love and passion side, it makes your life simpler is what I feel.
All right.
Okay, Gopi, a small question.
Yes.
We heard your wife participated in the Olympics before you. Is she the inspiration for you?
Yes, of course she is.
Yeah, I feel, okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful question. Personal question, actually. All right, so with that, we conclude this wonderful session. I guess one last, the minute these hands, oh my God, they are too, please, yeah, we can also, I think we can wrap this up and then we can have this post the unveiling of the book because our chief guest is here, we cannot make him wait more. So we'll have these two questions post it, all right?
Yeah, good evening, Gopi sir. I have been inspired by you. The last time I saw you was at the National Badminton Championships in Sarur Nagar. And I am very fortunate that you came up with this book to further inspire us. My question is, or what brought me here today is, your statement that you can't beat someone who is not only preparing for success but also for defeat. Can you give a context to this or some reference?
I think one of the realities of sport is failure. And you have to be prepared, it's okay to lose, kind of a thing. Because many of the times, your fear of failure is actually more than failure itself. I think it's very, very important for us to take that as a step which is very, very important. So I think sport teaches you a lot of things, and it's very important that we take failure as a big lesson.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now that our chief guest is here, sir, would definitely request you to kindly please join us here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri K.T. Rama Rao, our chief guest, is here. Yes, he is the Cabinet Minister for IT, Electronics and Communications, Industries and Commerce, and Municipal Administration and Urban Development, Government of Telangana, representing the Sirsila constituency in the Legislative Assembly. He is a 3-time MLA and an alumnus of the City University of New York. A dynamic and progressive leader, he is the architect of some of the most path-breaking initiatives, not just in the state of Telangana, but also the country. In the last decade and half of public service and active politics, he has carved a niche for himself as a forward-thinking, all-inclusive and development-oriented leader. An icon for the youngsters in the state, he is the face of the government and an ambassador for the state in national and international fora, and an active social media champion that he uses for both connecting with the masses and addressing their concerns. Amongst the many hats he wears, he is also the president of Badminton Association of Telangana and an avid promoter of sports, physical literacy and recreation for the next generation. So before we move on to the unveiling of the book, yes, I would request our chief guest to kindly please speak a few words, share your thoughts with all of us here today.
Right away?
Yes.
Well, obviously, I'm not privy to what has been said here before. So, firstly, I've just come from a dharna and all that. So, I have no idea, all of you sharply dressed ladies and gentlemen. My apologies if I'm looking extremely shabby for an event like this. But I obviously wanted to be here because, Gopi's been a terrific, terrific friend. He's somebody, not just as a friend, but I think as a human being, I've rarely met anybody with such amazing humility. I think he deserves a huge, huge, huge round of applause for, a lot of people, would have, gone through a phase where they've played extremely well in their career, in their times as a sports personality, as a sportsman or a sportswoman. But to actually give so much to the game after he was done playing, the kind of commitment this man has shown, I think everybody and anybody who's visited the academy would vouch for it. Getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, showing up at academy at 4, and that's how he's been able to create a factory of champions from his academy. Gopi, truly, you made Hyderabad the epicenter of Indian badminton, without a question. And we are proud of you, proud of all your achievements. You've created so many champions, and you've created a legacy not just by winning All England, but also right after that, I think in the last 20 years, you've been able to create a number of champions, both boys and girls. And the kind of work ethic they show is truly a reflection of the kind of coaching that you've given. You truly deserve Dronacharya and everything else that there is in India, absolutely. And I do hope and pray that you will continue to create champions, continue to inspire many, many, many young children. I keep telling lots of young kids that I run into that it's not just cricket anymore, it's badminton and it's tennis, it's so many other sports that one can take up. And you've literally proved it to the rest of India that, in a cricket crazy nation like ours, individual sport like badminton can also hog that kind of limelight, hog that kind of attention. And the way you've gone about so professionally, so methodically in creating champions will remain a huge inspiration to all of us. And more importantly, Gopi, I think, while you might get many offers to build many factories factories of champions, factories of champions across the country, make sure, I think I see Lakshmi here somewhere. Make sure that Gayatri and your son also continue to play here, continue to grow here. And I don't know where your mom is. Where is she? Hello, Auntie Bonara. And your dad, hi. So the entire family, of course, and I know the kind of work ethic you guys bring in. The entire family works, towards improving the academy day in, day out, and you continue to inspire all of us. So my compliments, congratulations. I was just asking him, I'm very curious. Because, a guy like this, who's achieved so much, his autobiography should be celebrated, in a huge way. This sort of low-key thing, is something that is a bit baffling. Priya, you should outdo this by like 1,000,000 times in Bombay. Let me find you some really heavy celebrities, not someone like me who's so shabby and who's coming all the way from Sirsila. I'll find you I'll propose rather, not find you. I'll propose some really cool celebrities who can come in, really do a swashbuckling thing and, make this autobiography a huge success. So Gopi, I'm glad you launched it in Hyderabad. Glad you gave me the honor of, joining on this in this August gathering. Congratulations, compliments, continue to do whatever you've been doing so successfully for so long. My compliments, and just onwards and upwards, I guess. Cheers. Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to us. And yes, the floor is still open to the audience here. We were continuing with our question-answer round, and after which we will witness the unveiling of the book. So if anybody still has any questions, please feel free to post your questions. We have our helpers here. Yeah, Praveen and two others. I think we'll first go with them because Praveen is in-house. We can always get back to him. So yes, sir. Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Ganesh Kudua from Mangalore. KTR sir just now told we should celebrate Gopi sir's book all over India. I have come from Mangalore for this program. It's a great honor for me to come and be in the same room as Gopi sir and KTR sir here. I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion for Madam Priya Kumar. Ma'am, you told you had deleted many sequences in the book. Why not have a second book about that?
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's what we are waiting for the next book.
Yeah,
we are waiting for the next book.
I already was making mental notes while he was talking some other things.
Yes. Yeah, I want to add one event to that book which you are telling. I met Gopi sir first in 2008 in Film Nagar badminton court. Somaraju sir had introduced me to Gopi sir. I had played with Gopi sir. He was playing with Chinese officials. I had an opportunity to play with him. That day, what I saw was people were talking about the Coca-Cola advertisement which Ronaldo had recently. I think it's in everybody's mind. Gopi sir had rejected it in 2001. That I know. But I saw the practical that day in Film Nagar. After playing, the organizers offered everybody there Coca-Cola. Gopi sir politely told, no, either give me water or a fruit juice. This thing, I saw the real person who is walking the talk here. That's why wanted to tell. No questions, only this observation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the suggestion.
I have a question for you. Did you cover Gopi and Lakshmi's love story in this? Cover किया कि नहीं? पूरी तरह से?
No.
क्यों नहीं?
I'll leave that for the second version, but I'll talk to you about it.
Well, I don't know much about it. You have to extract too much. Lakshmi, what is this? Autobiography ante.
I only know that she called him several times when he was injured and he was busy. मुझे उतना ही बताया.
मैं शायद बुक नहीं पढ़ूंगा प्रिया फिर तो. हाँ? Yeah, we have a dear friend here who can give you the entire ringside view of it.
That would be amazing.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, what kind of a story is this, man? Without your love story in there? It is there. See, it can't be the love story of Gopi Chand with badminton, no? It can't be that. I mean, there is Lakshmi, there's the entire, game, and your game, your sport, in fact, starts with love all. How can you not have love inside of Gopi Chand's autobiography? I don't get it.
We are keeping it for the second version. I think honestly, I think this relationship with KTR Garu, for me, 2012-13, when he came to the academy for the first time, and I think not many of you, of course, the book has it. We had a court case running for about 6 years from 2008 till 2014. And thanks to our Honorable CM KCR Garu, on the 6th of June, we actually had the court order reversed because the GO from the government actually ensured that we got our land back. I think that's something for me. The Honorable CM and Telangana has been, that's the gift which they've given for me. And I think it's very important that that journey and this friendship, the relationship with our entire family has with KTR Garu is something which we really cherish, and that's what we want. And one of the things you had asked about what makes it, I think it's the fact that we had the, if not anything, the non-interference of government itself is a big thing. And to have people like KTR Garu and KCR Garu as a see. So at the back of your mind, you know that we have a government which is actually supportive to you, who respect the work which you do, and we are happy to be here. I think that's a huge, huge support. And I think his coming here today from his constancy, driving all the way, and his morning call saying that no matter, even if it's a little late, I'm coming. I think that's the kind of support which I always have received, and that's what we are really grateful about. Thank you.
And I guess that actually sums up why KTR Garu is the chief guest here, because we don't want celebrities. Power overshadows glamour. So that's why I guess we want...
What I wanted was the story to come out. I didn't want... it was actually, to be honest, Shashidhar, his plan. I think what Priya has been... amazing. She's done about 15 or 16 self-help books. I think to break that down into actionable items for people, I think was important and is part of the book. And for me, these two were the major factors which, and for me, I couldn't have, and as much as Hyderabad is, and when ISB was said, I think for me to have this event in a hotel would have defeated the purpose. I think ISB is some place which we all from Hyderabad respect, and I think I would rather be here and with KTR and with all of you than anywhere else in Bombay. That's also the case, and I know that Priya is from Bombay.
Oh, very well said, sir. And yes, there was somebody else also here. Please, ma'am, can we have the mic?
Hello. Hello everyone, this is Divya here, and I'm a big fan of Priya Kumar. So, ma'am, I would like you to share your experiences in writing the book. We didn't hear much from you today, sorry.
No, let's hear from him. You can still hear from me. But I tell you, it was a whole journey of personal growth. Like I said, that I have not been a sports person since school, and therefore, an outsider's perspective to decode his mind, not just to his craft, but how can I use it, was my selfish interest. That what does it take? There is something beyond physical, there is something beyond technique, and that is the person himself. And what I got was far more than expected. When you do take up that, okay, I want to write a book, there is an expectation, itna information or this much knowledge I'll get, but it exceeded far beyond that. I didn't want the book to end. And I tell you, every chapter, when you see that I have decoded it and also posed introspective points for you, that's what I did. So the process of writing a book was not just capturing his journey, but also seeing a before and after in myself. You know, I have been more focused, I've been more disciplined, and these are very big words actually. You know, how do you translate it back to your career or to your life, and how do you maintain that spiritual undercurrent, the stories that he tells, can it be a part of my life? You know, so, and when he would talk, I had to see the world from his eyes, you know, see the challenge from his eyes, and in doing that, my world started to unravel and became simple. I tell you, like how in Hindi you say, ek yatra thi, you know, I don't know how to translate that in English at all, you know, but it was that for me, the entire process of capturing and writing the book. And while it's words and experiences, I stand as testimony, and I would, you know, I've taken a personal challenge of putting the book out to as many people. I have a number to it, and maybe y'all can help. You know, simply because it works. And when you read it, you will second this thought that this is something that teaches you that success, to build success is okay. There are many formulas. But to be a successful person, to be a great human being, to be a great example, that's totally, you know, another mindset. And you can have it all, and he embodies that. Example right here. So you read the book, look at him, read the book, look at him, and that's it. You're inspired. You have no excuse further left for mediocrity. Yeah. I have no excuse left. You know, so that is a big thing. As long as that book sits on my table or my name is on it, which will be forever, I am set for excellence.
I think this question answer session would not be complete without Lakshmi ma'am talking something. So please share something at least. Few words. And that is actually a request from our gentleman here.
I'm really happy that this book launch is happening. First of all, really thank you so much to Mrs. Priya, and thank you so much KTR Garu for making it. And I think Gopi deserves this, because I am not talking this as his wife, but definitely as a player and what he underwent. So I think whatever he gives his 100%. So I think he deserves all this. So I'm really very happy that Priya has done that. And that's it. I don't have much to talk, but I'm not able to talk now. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so much for us already. Thank you so much, ma'am, for talking to us. And is there anybody else who would like to? Oh, there are many. The hands keep raising. They never end. Yes, two women there.
Hi, my name is Neelima, and my question is for all three of you, Gopi sir and KTR sir and the professor, that how important is government policy making into bringing sport to this level? Because I come from a very famous but unorganized sport, and when I go to Gopi Anna's academy, I'm like baffled. I have to go, if I have to, you know, run, or if I have to train, I have to go to one place. If I have to go to a gym, I have to go to another place. If I have to go to a physio, I go to another place. So there's so much running around happening for me. But when I see the sports people playing at the academy, I'm like, oh, this is so much work. This is so much hard work that one person has brought in. And I'm sure there were many policy making, something must have happened. This must not have been in the books or in the bureaucratic system, I'm not so sure. That any system, anything that you have changed in the system that is making it better for other sports or for younger generation from your sport?
Want me to answer it? Well, I think I'll break it into two parts. Firstly, I think I'll be shameless in saying this, and I'm not going to beat around. Any sports personality that has succeeded in India in the last 74 years after independence has done it despite the government, without a question. I will not say that, you know, government has created a champion or government has actually been able to pull something off magical. In fact, if you look at every time India goes to Olympics, you know, there is that, you know, 1 billion hearts, you know, beating, waiting, you know, for somebody to bring home the medal. The reason why we have not done well as we should have for a country of our size, is primarily because governments have not put sport as a priority. I'm talking governments including mine. I'm not even going to tell you that my government has done something stupendous in sports. No. I think all of us. That is primarily because in our country, end of the day, if you look at it, we are a country with per capita of $2,000. And United States is a country, just to put things in perspective, a country with per capita of about $60,000. So that's where we are at, in terms of first world, third world. What happens is, as a country, as a state, as a government, your priority becomes, the basics. Get pani, bijli, sadak, pehle ye to karo. Meet the basics and then start looking at other things as well. Because sport is looked at as an accessory, as a I won't call it a luxury, as something that can be done later, something that can wait in terms of prioritization. That is what governments have always looked at it as, and our government has not been very different on that context. Yes, we've done itsy bitsy pieces here and there, but I don't think we've done.
I will digress upon this point because you remember R.S. Praveen Kumar sir, when he got Purna onto the stage, he made to get one woman from that background, and he changed the whole perspective of tribal and education. So many people send their children to education and all. So I think in that way your government did work from that perspective, but that is for one sport.
That's what I'm saying. It's primarily individuals who were driven, who got somewhere because of their drive. It's not, see, if you look at China versus India, why does China produce so many champions? Because there is a systemic effort where the government actually enables creation of champions, I wouldn't say creation of champions, but they nurture the raw talent, create champions out of them. Unfortunately, in our country, we only think about medals every 4 years. We don't really think about sport as a priority. Sport doesn't remain a priority during other times. So what happens is, when an Olympic winner comes home, governments are competing with each other to announce big prize monies. But I think the same money, if it can be put into the system to create more medal winners, I think that will work better. Unfortunately, that is a bit lopsided, and like I said, including yours truly, we've all not done as well as we should have. There is room for improvement, room for scope. Of course, as you all know, 75 years of independence next year. So hopefully after the basics are met, at least in a good state like Telangana, in a progressive state like Telangana, maybe we can start prioritizing, putting it as a higher priority. And Gopi keeps talking to me about physical literacy. Today we are all worried for our children, becoming addicted to digital devices, our children becoming obese, our children, not doing as much physical work as they should be. I think all parents, every parent is worried, without a question, across the country. So I think physical literacy also needs to be ingrained into academics, into the curriculum. Only when that becomes a sort of a habit, only when that becomes a sort of a definitive feature of the curriculum, I think then you'll start seeing more and more champions come out, and then you'll start seeing even the schools possibly take this very, very seriously. You mentioned the residential school system here. I think even the private schools have been doing a bit more than what governments have been doing. So I think the private sector industry, the private academic institutions and government together, then we can possibly give China and others a run for their money.
Thank you. And for Gopi Anna, any points that you would like to share about in this whole struggle to bring about one academy, to get sponsor, and to have the that kind of movement that the government is is pushed to give you that land? Any one struggle would you like to share? That's all.
I think to get things done in our country, I wouldn't be as harsh as KTR Garu, and also I wouldn't also I don't have such a big problem to solve. Since I'm looking at it from a very personal story. When I would go to the stadium, I still remember Mehboob Saab was the watchman, and LV Stadium, Mehboob Saab. I've never waited for anybody in my life more than him, because I just would want to see him come on time, because that would ensure that he would give 10 minutes more than the rest of the days. Because if he came at 5:45, then we would get to play for 15 minutes before 6 o'clock when the seniors would come up and take the courts. That is what it was. So the watchman coming, then if you go inside, there's electricity or not, which is doubtful. Then you go to the ground mein shaadi hua hai, stadium mein ballot boxes rakhe hai. This is the problem which we used to have growing up. And for me, to get a ground, to get a swimming pool, to get to a physio, to get all of these were big challenges. So for me, when I thought of the academy, one of the first things was if I have to really run around the way I did, I think that would be hugely difficult to produce a player. If I had to shut down my academy or the ground for Ramzan and Christmas and from Diwali, and we'll never be able to produce champions like that. We wanted a place which is 24/7 thinking of the athlete, and that is how the academy's mindset came up. And really thanks to the people who really supported. Very fortunate, we had somebody called N. Prasad. He over breakfast, he gave the first check of 2 crores to start off with, and he gave another 3 crores to end it. And then we had people like Jayesh who was there. He was the GHMC commissioner at that time. He said 25 lakhs he would give. But this just wasn't enough to finish the building to a point where a time came when we had to mortgage our house to get a 3 crores to get the money required to finish it. And my dad, typical banker, 25 lakhs, we got it after winning the All England. He put it in a bank. After 5 years, we got 50 lakhs. We put it back. My brother sent some money. So all of the money we really put in. And I'm glad we took those decisions. And this family is super supportive. And this is where I think Gopi the coach and to Professor Madan actually asking me, is it possible again? I don't know, because Gopi the coach may be possible. But Gopi the family, Gopi the academy, I think the entire academy, people who have supported me and stood by me all these years, I think that would have been a real challenge. And the problem was that to allot the land, you have to go to the government. A clerk just shut off the cupboard for 2 weeks. And we had no way of getting the file out, even because the chief secretary or the secretary wants it, because the clerk doesn't want. So we have to actually had problems at very basic levels, where to move file from one place to another, and to actually get things done. And then in 2008, the land was taken back, and then we had to fight a 6-year-old court case to get it up. I think we've faced a lot of these issues, but the underlying thing is somehow God's been kind and we've been able to push through. So I think sport is, I wouldn't be as harsh as KTR Garu. There's a lot which governments still are doing. We still have infrastructure which is decent. Hyderabad has some good stadiums, some infrastructure which is there. The central government has put in a lot of money post 2008-10 Commonwealth Games. They have actually done a lot. Today the general ecosystem and the mindset of parents and corporates has changed towards sport. Today a lot more conversations about sport are happening. Beyond cricket, whether it's athletics or tennis or wrestling or shooting, there is sports being spoken about. So I think a lot has changed, and I'm very positive about sport. And I do believe that sport has a great value, and I think the future for sport is there, and there's a lot of support which is coming, which has not been there in the past. But definitely the last 8-10 years, I see a positive momentum for sport.
Thank you so much. And I guess with that, we'll wrap up the session. We're running out of time, but we'll definitely listen to your question post, the unveiling. Yes, we are all ready to witness the unveiling of the book, and our dignitaries are here on stage. So it's time to get the books on. And I will also request, Shobita, Praveen, Mohit to please join us on stage. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to witness the unveiling. I request our dignitaries to kindly please step forward to do the honors. And Shobita, Mohit, Praveen to please join us.
He already offered.
Yes.
Yeah, so whatever I can do, maybe we go triple.
I won't be able to bring you an Amitabh Bachchan. I'll probably
Yes, we also have a token of appreciation to the panelists. I would request Shri KTR Garu kindly to please do the honors. I request Praveen from Meraki to kindly please do the honors in felicitating our chief guest, Shri KTR Garu. I request Shobita to kindly please felicitate the Professor, Dean of ISB. Shobita, if you could just do the honors. Yes, Professor Madan Pilutla. Thank you so much for moderating that wonderful segment for all of us. And yes, I would request Mohit to kindly please felicitate Priya Kumar with a token of appreciation. Yes, and the star of the evening, Shobita, would request you to please do the honors once again. Ladies and gentlemen, Shuttler's Flick is now open for everybody out there. Please go ahead, buy the book, read the book. And with that, yes, we'd like to thank all the dignitaries once again for being here, taking time out from your busy schedules to be present here with us. Yes, I think now the lady here who wanted to post a question, we'll get back to you right now. So if we can hand over the mic to her. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, good evening, Gopi sir and KTR sir, Professor Madan and Priya. It's a real privilege. I'm here. This is Shantala Vegas. I am the coordinator for culture and communications at Alliance Francaise, Hyderabad. So this is a question to Gopi sir. So this is a question to not just the sports person Gopi, but the coach Gopi and the parent Gopi as well. In your book, you say sports teaches you to lose with dignity. My question to you is, in today's world, like KTR sir just mentioned, the moment you go on an international stage, there are 1.2 billion hearts beating for you, and at the same time there are if not 1.2, there are millions of thumb warriors ready for you to fail so they can come into action. So how do you motivate, or what do you say to your proteges when you send them onto bigger stages? How not just to prepare for the loss, but what happens after the loss? It grows in magnitude as the occasion grows. So national level, international level, and then Olympics and things like that. So how do you deal with that, and what's your tidbit and what's your suggestion to youngsters who are stepping onto the social media bandwagon to face this kind of a backlash? Thank you.
I think the social media part is something which I may not be the most equipped to handle or tell about, because I think that question I'll pass it on here, because I think this is where from I come from is sport per se is very simple. I think when you break it down, it's you train hard, you eat well, and you rest properly, and you think correctly. That's all sport is. It's very, very simple. You add things and color, it actually, you start putting pressure on things which are not required. And pressure happens in the most unexpected of things, right? So You have somebody who comes up and tells you before a big match, you have 1.2 billion people rooting for you, they are praying for you, and we are doing this puja and this puja, and they say it in a very nice way. But actually, you can't play sport when you actually hitting a smash, when you're deciding to go for the line, or when you're starting off the blocks as an athlete. You can't be thinking about the 1.2 billion. There's already enough. So you need to refine the process, and that's all there is. So I think all of these to be shut off is very important. So your rituals, your practice, your process during the event, these are the critical things which are most important. The rest of it is all unwanted. There's nothing, whether you're playing at the training ground or whether you're playing at the Olympics, it just doesn't matter. This is where I think Abhinav Bindra's quote actually, he says the Olympics doesn't come every 4 years, it comes every day. And I think that is what is important. The process which you start day in and day out is very important. Every day you train like it is the Olympics, it is the biggest match. I think that makes you immune to these things, Loss, I think it's very important. We don't lose enough in our lives early on. Many of the times when you miss in school or college, the school hides it, the parents hide it, you hide it. There's a supplementary exam. Everybody hides failure in the initial years, and when it actually happens at the big stage, then people are not prepared for it. But imagine that 11-year-old kid, 10-year-old, in front of people is actually losing a tournament. So he's knowing how to handle defeat at 10 and 11, and that's what sports' biggest strength is. And imagine when he comes back in front of the same people, performs well and wins again. That confidence which it gives, I think that is what sport for me is, and that is why sport is very important for me.
Thank you so much. And since Mr. Gopi has a flight to catch at 10, and we wouldn't want you to miss that for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we wrap up this session. Would like to thank KTR Garu for coming here and taking your time out from your busy schedule. And then again, yes, ladies and gentlemen, would also like to thank our esteemed dignitaries on stage, distinguished panelists, and the team behind this magnificent event. Stories by Miraki, Rajat Book Corner, Simon and Schuster, ISB, Namdhari, Maharishi, and our friends from the press and media, and of course our lovely audience. Thank you so much. And yes, it's time now to proceed for the book signing, and definitely dinner is being served too. So let's continue our conversations over dinner, and first let's proceed for the book signing. Thank you so much. This is your MC Sharon Amer signing off. Thank you.
We have to talk. I'll get your number from Gopi and we'll connect. I'm taking my bag. Please stay back. Bye, people.
My dear friends, the book signing segment will happen downstairs. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please hear me out. The book signing segment will happen downstairs. So please proceed downstairs. And after the books signing segment, you can please proceed for dinner as well. And yes, those who are in a hurry, we already have signed books, so you can collect the signed books. So those who are in a hurry, please, you can collect the signed books, which are also kept there. So please proceed downstairs, and you can collect the signed books. Thank you.
And it's quite a journey for me as well.
Really, they trust you to get the story the way.
Yeah. That's why, there was this